Hey everybody, this is Ryan and welcome to the lesson on creating successful workshops. Hone in on your niche and share it with your students. So let's go straight into the benefits of teaching a workshop. It's a great way to connect with your students deeper than you do in a regular class. Workshops can range from a couple hours to sometimes a whole weekend. So really, again, a great time to get deeper with your students. It's another opportunity for you to really specialize your teachings. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but really becoming known for your specialty, for your niche. So generate more income and also get paid more for working less. Getting away from that thought process that many yoga teachers have that they need to teach more group classes in order to make more money. Again, work harder in order to make more money. So again, leveraging our time. So the topic, it can focus on any aspect of yoga, such as alignment, principles, yoga philosophy, anatomy, special need issue, teaching skills, anything yoga related. And just remember, yoga is an 8-limb path. I feel funny saying that, but so often we focus on just the poses. And it is our job as yoga teachers to continue to remind our students that yoga is an 8-limb path. And the asanas is only one part of that, only one of the 8 limbs. So again, I talked about specialize. This is your opportunity to further your niche. When you host a workshop, choose your niche as the topic, which allows you to emphasize your specialty. Now, when you're there at the workshop, you can offer the people there your one-on-one coaching. So, okay, again, this probably sounds so obvious and simple, but you are creating a workshop of your niche, so that means that people you want to work with are going to come to that workshop. Now, when they come to that workshop, at the end, you offer an opportunity to work with them one-on-one. Now you've really been able to land your perfect client by specializing in your niche. And now you're getting known as the teacher who, whatever you're teaching on, whatever your niche is, that's what you become known for. So an example I give is Nikki Myers. I actually know Nikki. I went to a Yoga for Addictions retreat, I think it was like 4 years ago, and she was one of the teachers there. She's a popular teacher who offers regular workshops internationally on yoga and the 12 steps. So again, really specialized. In doing this, she's helping many people throughout the world to explore the natural connection between 12-step recovery work and the practice of yoga. She's made a name for herself in the recovery community as a teacher who can support its specific needs. And this not only brings many people to her workshops, but it also makes her much more attractive as a teacher to a specific audience. Again, because she's specialized in that, she's known for that niche. She's known for being a teacher to go to in the recovery community. So again, who is your community? Now, a mistake is, first off, facilitating a workshop is much different than teaching your standard yoga class. And that's where one of the big mistakes teachers make is the assumption that a yoga workshop is a little more than a yoga practice. Maybe that's obvious to some, but it's one of the biggest mistakes that's made. And it does. It's always the result is students feel disappointed. Because a workshop, again, is your chance to break down really and just get deeper into something than just a regular yoga class, than just going through the postures. And we're going to go through that a little bit later on. So what is a workshop? A workshop is a time to break down. Take your time and break down concepts and techniques that are difficult to teach in a regular class. So questions to ask yourself, like, who is my audience? Because knowing your audience is the most important thing you can do. Let me say that again. Knowing your audience is the most important thing you can do. Why do you think I've been having you do the avatar? It's so that you can really hone in on who you enjoy working with. Now, for example, you're not going to teach handstands to beginners. You have to know your audience. So this is going into what, also you're going to teach. Like, is your audience all new students or advanced? That really determines the criteria for the workshop. Will help you in preparing, again, your promotional material, you're developing your talking points, coming up with exercises, speaking in a language that they can easily understand. And I give a lot of examples during this training is that teaching anatomy classes for yoga teachers, the information would be a lot more different for medical students. So the focus would be, more on yoga related and tailored to teachers if it was an anatomy class for yoga teachers. So again, who is my audience? Are they coming at more of a beginner? Are they coming more of an intermediate and advanced? Are they all over the board? And then, really dealing and getting into who your audience is, it doesn't necessarily have to be either just new students or advanced or intermediate. It's also, what is the topic? And what will these people really appreciate, hearing about? Like, again, you'll understand as the more that you dive into who your audience is. Now, what do I want to teach to my audience? So this is getting even more. This seems like a silly question, but it often goes unanswered by many great teachers. In any workshop, you should have 5 or 6 key points. And I want to say it again, 5 or 6 key points that you want to make and no more. Teaching a yoga workshop for, say, on the spine, you might want to focus, I would focus on like the 6 movements of the spine. First, I would discuss, the lateral flexion to the left and right, and then discuss some of the benefits and precautions of that type of movement. And I would do the same for forward bending, back bending, and twisting. So following this, I would have them practice yoga and focus the sequence and my comments on those specific movements discussed. Again, we're not only taking, we all know that basically people can be driven more through kinetically. They can be more audio. They can be more visual driven. And so we want to make sure that we cover all aspects of learning. And we don't want to just get into our minds. We want to, just like the path of yoga, it's getting into our minds and into our bodies. So making sure that you really, again, have them practice yoga and make that more experiential. And again, this gives them a real and tangible experience of the concepts that you discussed. So what key points do I want students to take away from the workshop? By clarifying in your own mind what those points are and then reaffirming those key points in a variety of ways, using examples and exercises, that allows students to be able to take away the nuggets of information. And it's far more effective than just spewing out a bunch of random facts and hoping that something sticks. So what activities and exercises can I offer that will help to solidify those points and make them meaningful? Well, of course, include some poses, some breathing exercises, meditations that reaffirm the key points that you're trying to convey. You could lecture all day long about the benefits of a pose, but it's not until you actually put someone in that back bend that they begin to feel those benefits. And I want to make a small point, actually, is that I do not have this 100% confirmed. But I want to say that I did read this actually in a yoga journal study one time, was that if you mention the benefits of a pose while the students are going through it, it's something like they get 30% more benefits or something like that, but it makes sense. It doesn't become just a pose at that point in time. You're relating it to the benefits that you'll experience in your body. Where focus goes, energy flows. So one of the things I often do as a teacher is that when I go into a pose, I want to reaffirm the benefits of what's going on in their bodies. Not for every pose, obviously. For certain styles that wouldn't make sense. But this is an opportunity for you to show your experience as a yoga teacher and for them to get more out of the practice, because now they're connecting the benefits of those poses with the actual practice. And it means something more. So Another question to ask yourself is, what handouts or other resources can I provide to students, so they can review the information in the days and weeks that follow the workshop? We want them to really take that information and to be able to let it sit around for a while. There's something to be said about actually having something in your hands, and taking it home with you. It means something more than just, having a PDF on your email that can be deleted at any point in time. There's definitely something about putting something in somebody's hands. So, to add on to that, what homework can I give students at the conclusion of a workshop to help them refine and practice their newfound skills? So some examples is, if you taught a workshop on breathing, you ask them to notice their breath for the next week. Make it a practice. And then say you taught a workshop on meditation, invite people to practice meditation every morning for a week so they can start to feel the long-term benefits of meditation. So the most effective workshops stimulate the way that you think and inspire the audience to practice in a new way. I think about it a lot for some reason, is that, Tony Robbins, I had shared with you guys in the first training lesson about his rapid planning method. And in that lesson, he talks about how if you take your pen and paper and you write your signature 10 times, sign your name out. By the time that you get to number 10, you're twice as fast as when you began, typically. Now, what happens if you take out every other letter? That means that you're only writing basically half the letters in your name, and you're signing it that way. Now, in the beginning, you will, actually write your signature about 3 times as slow, which makes sense. It's a completely new way of doing things. But after some practice, you will actually write that your signature 1/3 of the time faster than you will your regular signature. You're like, well, how does that make sense? It's half the letters. Well, the thing is that the brain loves new patterns of thinking. And so that's why we always want to be growing. That's why we always want to be pushing ourselves beyond the boundaries of what we think is possible. Because when our brain picks up a new way, a new pattern, it's like it gets excited. It's like a little kid, and it's a new way of doing things. It's kind of like, let's say you worked for a month straight and you just went home, no excitement, but then you got away for the weekend and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Probably not the best example, but what I'm saying is that, our brain and our bodies like to try new things. So again, giving people those opportunities at the end of a workshop to really just take these things home and experiment with them is definitely important. So getting paid. So for the most part, it's usually for most teachers commission-based, because this is the most effective way to operate. You'll hold workshops at a gym or a studio. When I say gym, it always makes me think of Gold's Gym. That was my first teaching gig. Interesting, many stories there. So anyways, at a gym or a yoga studio, and then take a percentage of the money collected. So this ensures that the studio or gym providing the space, will help with the marketing. They're going to help you. And in many cases, they're going to also handle the registration and the collection of money, which, can be a big pain in the butt. So, an example, you're teaching a 3-hour workshop. And again, I want to say again that a workshop can be anything you want it. I would not make it more than a weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday, because, it can be a little bit much. I mean, it's hard for people to get off on, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, you could try doing again, an ongoing workshop. That's something to consider if you feel like you have a lot of information to share. And that's a way to get commitment from people. But anyways, you say you're teaching a 3-hour workshop for yoga on diabetes. And for this workshop, you are charging, $50 in advance and then $65 at the door. So you have 12 students who pre-register, and you really want to push for pre-registrations because that's guaranteed money. You already know that you have that much coming in the door. It's kind of a little worrisome when you obviously have to count on people showing up. So if you have 3 students who simply show up, the total income would be $695. So most studios are on a 50-50 split for newer teachers and intermediate. You know, if you're a more advanced teacher, then you could get to 60-40. Hey, you know your studio better than I do. You also know the owner, you know what you can get away with. So, hey, go for what you think is fair. So for the sake of this example, let's assume that you're collecting 50%. So you would have made $342 basically for a 3-hour workshop. Now, the average yoga teacher is making about $35 per class. Maybe 40. Let's say 40. So that would have taken you typically about 8 classes that you would have had to teach. And that would have been about 8 hours. Or, if you're teaching an hour and a half class, you can add up the time. Bottom line is that you're making more money with less time. And so again, this is what we want to start getting back to. And I know, listen, you guys have been doing great in the training, and I'm really happy with the progress so far. So what I want to just say is that just continue on this path of looking for different ways that you can actually make more money with less time. What are the opportunities that exist, within your current structure? So the next way of getting paid is do-it-yourself training. Now, if you decide to go it alone, you will make more money, but there is also more risk. It's true. And there's definitely more risk. But, there's an opportunity here to make more money. So just listen. Most facilities will charge you $50 to $100 per hour, with some charging as little as $25. Using the example of the 3-hour meditation workshop and grossing that $695 that we talked about, if the facility charged you $50 per hour, your profit is now $545 versus the $342. So now in addition to paying for the space yourself, you also do have to do your own marketing and registration. So that's something to think of. Now, we're going to definitely get into marketing at a different time, but the thing here to recognize is that there are opportunities out there. Now, sites like Craigslist and Kijiji are great for finding rental spaces. The other thing that you have to consider is that if you're marketing your workshops at a separate location, is that okay for the yoga studio? Is that okay with the manager and the owner? Are they going to approve of something like that? So that's also something that you'll need to consider, because most people are pulling from, their group classes to be able to teach these workshops. So again, just make sure if you're going that route that you have the owner or the manager's permission to do so. Now, tips for a successful workshop. Encourage or require pre-registration. And I talked about this earlier. I can't impress upon this enough, because you don't want to be sitting there worrying, okay, are enough students going to show up? The other thing is don't overplan. And I mean that because, they're so afraid often of getting, of failing or getting something wrong, that they'll get too much almost in their headspace. You have to, what I would highly recommend is that you have at least 50% of the content created for the program. Enough content that would get you through half the time. Now, the reason I'm saying that, because often you need to be open. If you don't feel confident enough, yes, you can maybe even do 75% of the content needs to be created. But I actually highly recommend that you allow the energy just to flow and see what comes up. Because if you really know your subject, number 5, you'll be able to hold the space for the students and then be able to go with the flow of what they really want to learn. And as a teacher, you are the lead. So number 3, always give students time to share and ask questions, and that really builds on to what I was just saying. Give them an opportunity to take a breath and to share what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, and they're going to tell you what's the most important things to them. So it's really important to allow them to share and ask questions. Number 4, offer homework and handouts to help students apply what they learned. So this is a continuation. You know, the learning, again, doesn't stop because the workshops stop. The more as we talked about, the workshops that stick out in our mind are the ones that, you know, we did something with afterwards. If it was just information to be learned there and we don't take it home with us, we don't do something with it, then I don't want to be harsh and say what's the purpose of that workshop, but I do in some ways want to say what's the purpose of that workshop. Anyways, number 5, know your subject. Again, this is obvious, but this is, again, an opportunity for you to really talk about your specialty and talk about your niche and talk about things that you're passionate about. Do not teach things that you're not passionate about, because your students will know intuitively. You can feel when someone is teaching from the heart and teaching from passion. So I just want to impress upon that is just go with what you love, because it's a difference of 15 or 5 people showing up in your workshop and 25 to 200. It's all about doing the things that you love, and people genuinely can feel that. So that's it for now. I will see you on the next lesson regarding retreats.